Hello and welcome to another episode of the Solve to Evolve podcast. The purpose of our podcast is to give you, the viewers, the investors, business owners, insights into what's happening in Australia today. And so I've got Jono with me, minus Bloxy. How are you today, Jono?
Good, thanks, Phil. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad myself. And so it's a new season for us. We're at a new location, and to change it up a little bit, we're bringing on guests onto our podcast who have a wealth of experience and knowledge in their specific business and industry, and picking their brains so that they can share that to our viewers. Today, our first guest on this new season, we have a partner at Pounce digital marketing agency. He's also a published and co-author of an Amazon bestseller, Make AI Happen for Business Executives. His name is Mathur. Welcome, Rax. How are you?
Thanks. I am good, thank you. I said thanks before I said good, thank you. I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Good. Good to have you, Rax.
Thank you. Thank you, Fat.
Better now that you are here. So, to get straight into it, can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, but also about Pounce Digital Marketing Agency?
So, look, I came to this country when I was 10, right? So I came here without speaking a lick of English and sounding like, fresh off the boat, as you would understand.
That's pretty good deal.
Now, and I grew up in the Western Sydney in a suburb called Blacktown. And, one of the things around growing up in Blacktown was you had to assimilate real quick. There's a point to why I bring that up, because through my different phases in my growth, I was always having to understand what was around me to learn, right? Because I was never felt like I was fitting in for the most part of my teen years, or even growing up into my tween years. When you're coming from a ethnic background and you're coming from an Indian background, right? Like you are either a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist or a IT person, right?
You failed.
I failed. Because I said to my dad, I want to be a drummer. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? And he was like, you can do all the drumming you want after you do your graduation, like after you get a degree in programming or something related with logic.
Doctor.
So I did that. And then, as all Indian parents do, they moved the goal mark. And then they said, get your master's. And after that, you can do anything you want. So I did. So I got my master's in arts and entertainment management, which is effectively an MBA. And then once I did that, I got my first foray into creativity when I started, I was working with artists in record labels. I had done an internship at Sony Music, and then eventually I got a job at Sony Music. So my career saw me chop and change from a logical brain to a very creative brain, like learning how to play the drums, going and playing, gigging, touring, to figuring out system integrations, doing logical-based algorithmic development, discrete mathematics, and all that kind of stuff. So there was this dichotomy of a brain that was forming. And I suppose over time, I developed a bunch of businesses. They failed, but the reason that happened was it was still a learning curve, Rax. I was still learning how to do a bunch of stuff. And about 2016 came the biggest crash, right? 2016 broke as all hell. I shut down my recording studio, record label. And then I realized one thing. I've done all of this learning. Now it's time to apply. So with only there was literally negative $60 cash and $120,000 debt, I went to the States. And when I went to the States, I said, look, for all you United States listeners and people who love the US, I'm sorry. But I thought to myself, the people in the US are really stupid. So why don't I go there and make some money? So in 3 weeks, I made $150,000 by going and talking about social selling and about social media marketing and all that kind of stuff, going to New York, Miami, San Diego, LA. And I did the whole tour, and then I came back, paid off the debt, and I said reset and got myself a job.
Yeah, well done.
And that's kind of where I then met Sim. So I'd done a whole bunch of work in different agencies at this stage. We'd done a ton of work in government, ton of work in system integrators and IT marketing agencies. So I met Sim in 2017. And when I met her, I'm going, this chick's pretty smart. She knows what's going on, right? Invariably, I ended up marrying her. So she got a free resource for a while. But effectively, she is smart. If I was smart, she's smarter. She's like, I'll put that on lock. Don't worry. Effectively, when she started Pounce, she started to make IT sexy, right? That's her motto. I wanted to make IT sexy is what she kept saying. And I'm saying, IT was never sexy. But
I've got Rax right here.
I'm the sexy IT. I bring it back. No, but then I've always had a vision to equip people with the tools to express themselves creatively. That's my tombstone. And so I decided, okay, why don't we merge our superpowers together you're street smart, you understand client language, I understand technology, I understand delivery, and I've worked across multiple industries. So why don't we bring that together to form what was known as Pounce? And so 6.5 years later, we're in Malaysia, we're here, we've been working on a bunch of stuff in deep tech for a long time. So this whole notion of AI and ML and automation was not new. It was just a paradigm shift. And so when it approached mainstream, it was just like, let's just call some contacts and everyone's talking shit about it, like honest to goodness, shallow level. Why don't we bring deep enterprise experience and knowledge and actually tell people the truth on how we implement this stuff? I suppose that's a bit of a background about it.
So I guess to summarize, Pounce really uses or leverages technology to then deliver marketing services. Is that the way?
So we started, look, it's a risky business, right? Implementation of AI for creativity, that's the title of the next book anyway, but implementing creativity brings with it its own challenges around personalities, around creative people. Creative people feel threatened. Invariably, they're insecure because of it's their personal works that they're putting out to the world. So as an agency, we have to be sensitive to creative people. As a businessman, I don't have to be a damn thing except for money-minded, right? So in between those two, we have to meet, where we use artificial intelligence applications for optimizations of otherwise mundane tasks, research, reviews, reports. We use it for idea generation, but we still have human intervention and human ideas to be able to spark it. In fact, even with copy and content, we could use it to build out the topic roster, right? But we definitely don't use it to even write synopsis just yet.
Yeah, makes sense.
So what we do use it for is, what we're about to really use it for heavily is cloning my voice, right? And really making sure that the writers can record podcasts and all that kind of stuff, but they've got my voice intact so that we can make commodities of my voice, right? Wow. And so that deep fake stuff is still stuff that we've been testing. We haven't really productionalized it because obviously it's my voice. I don't want them asking for my, giving credit card details on the voice, you know what I mean? That stuff is dangerous. But it's real. Like I posted recently on LinkedIn around, it's amazing. Technology is amazing, but it's freaking dangerous too if it's not used properly. The deep fake stuff about taking a kid's photo and making them older and using them as a passport photo. Identity theft is rampant now, and we need to be 100% aware of what's going on in this space.
And to that point, Rax, what are some of the safeguards that you think business owners need to put in place to prevent things like privacy risks and things like that?
So my biggest advice for any business owner that's implementing any form of AI is read the terms and conditions for the application that you're using. It's number one. You'd be surprised what you don't own when you start reading terms and conditions. All the lawyers in the room will tell you that. And, but for example, I'm going to actually speak out a terms and condition clause that I read yesterday that I'm going to tell you the company name. All right. And the clause explicitly states, for any works created using the free beta of our artificial intelligence tool, any works for the perpetuity of the works, for the lifetime of the works, will belong to us irrevocably across all regions for all lifetimes.
All lifetimes.
Yeah. Adobe. Wow. That's Adobe. Now remember, Adobe's just spent $20 billion on Figma, which is the biggest tool for creativity. Adobe has Express, which is touting as its AI tool for generative artwork. Hey, by the way, do we know how to sign up for the paid version of Adobe? Where do you sign up first? The free version? Right? So they're capturing you.
That's the gateway.
And that's the gateway. They'll use it. But the thing is, if someone hacks Adobe, there is no claim that you have. What? So you have to be super, super careful.
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous where we're heading. But I guess when you think about it, most creatives and most people, most everyday users probably will use Adobe or another competitor that's probably got the same type of clause or term in their in the contract. So I guess
how do you get around it?
Yeah.
That's good. That's a really good question. So look, there's some really mature projects out there that are going to safeguard the creator, and some of them are like the big brands. So Microsoft, that's a big brand. YouTube and Google, that's a big brand. They have API options to not store, because remember how AI works is it only remembers half the word and then it creates. And so if you send that information via API back to the Microsoft servers, then it keeps it. Otherwise, if you say no, then no. So soon it'll give you GUI options, which means graphical user interface options to turn it off manually. Right? The big boys. So Adobe will enable that soon, but Adobe will jack up the subscription prices, right? So that you pay, and it'll delineate that because you're paying for it, you own your work. So freemium is going to become more dangerous than paid.
Yeah.
And then having the ability to get through that boring part, at least read the basic term,
But the fine print is so small, Rax, and it's 100 pages. I don't want to read it.
No, don't read it then. Then all you do is copy and paste it into ChatGPT. Honestly, the stuff that's coming out now, it's too heavy for not to be us aware of our rights.
Yeah, and look, I think it's the society we live in right now. We just click just to get to the end result, right? So that's
next.
Okay, so to summarize, what clauses should business owners and everyday users be looking out for?
Yep. So the clauses specifically around rights and usage, there are specific multiple paragraphs of surviving rights as well. So there's usage rights, then there's surviving rights. What happens after the usage is finished, and all of that those kind of terms really, really are important. So if you read the TOS, so the whole terms of service is not as important as long as you can find usage and ownership or anything to do with intellectual property and assignment. Right?
Usage, assignment, intellectual property, those are the buzzwords you are looking out for.
That's
excellent.
Yep.
Okay, well, look, moving on, we just wanted to touch on make AI happen.
Yeah.
So can you tell us in a few words, Rax, might be a bit hard, but what is this book about?
It's Inception.
Okay.
That's a few words.
Thank you.
So make AI happen, a guide for business. So there's two angles of it. Nick actually is a good friend and the co-author. So give you a bit of background on Nick. Nick is the software solutions architect for Xero, right? So he designed the application. He did the technical design for Xero, and before that, he worked directly with Bill Gates on Windows Server. So he was at Microsoft, and so he's a heavy hitter in the IT industry. Obviously, came from the Channel Islands. He's a funny, geeky, love that bloke, right? So he wrote the original AI for education, right? And him and I were talking, and he goes, I did it for shits and giggles over a weekend at a pub. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. and then he goes, and that became a bestseller. And I'm like, how long? He's like, 4 days. I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, look. And I was like, okay. And then we started talking about it. I was like, I don't know about writing a book. I don't know. And like, what am I going to add to it? Like, all these doubts and stuff. I'm like, anyway, Sin was like, just do it. Just write a book. And so we said, okay, why don't we take edition 1, AI in education and AI in business, and merge a creativity and pragmatic project management approach to implementing this thing. And so we said, okay, let's do an event. We'll do a book. And so we did a book, and the book was 60% done via AI, created on AI, about AI, for an AI event with at least only 40% human intervention. And that's that book. Inception. And it went bestseller in, I think it was 3 days. 3 days. And here's the truth, guys. Bestseller in Australia in enterprise apps means you can buy 50 copies of the book yourself and you can become a bestseller. But funnily enough, we had a decent amount of sales from all of Australia and some from India that got blocked because Amazon Kindle doesn't allow books in India. So we now have a second edition just for India releasing out there because a lot of obviously my family is from there, and there's a whole tour being discussed over there. So that's the book in a nutshell. The biggest part of that book is now from Turbo 4.5, which is Microsoft's latest version of ChatGPT, paid version. This book and most of the AI prompts become a little bit obsolete. So there is another edition that we've got to write pretty much. Well, AI has to write it.
You got to answer the prompts.
We got to answer the prompts. I mean, it's a little bit more because to break down how this system works. So there's prompts, right? So we designed the prompts. Then it generated a bunch of responses. We then took that as code into Microsoft Visual Studio Code Editor. And then we created an application framework around making that into a document. So the whole thing was built on tech as pretty much a platform, right? And so from a content editing perspective, I still had to go in, edit content, not write code. Nick and I were working a bit with code, but Sim really edited my part because my grammar is And then when I was writing in the manuscripts, I was writing free form writing, right? And I'm writing, and then Sim's like, my God, this is after the generation of the content. This is me overriding human intervention. And then Sim going, let me just edit your garbage so that people can understand it.
So really, Sim's name should be there.
Sim's name should be there. Shout out to Sim and Core.
Yeah.
Has a gun. She pays me.
All right. That's great. So obviously the next book or version 2 or Make AI Happen 2.0 is going to be coming out very soon.
Yeah, look, I think Creative and AI comes out in January, and then edition 2 of this comes out in March. Yeah, because we're allowing for a lot more stability before we launch another book, because obviously we don't want it to change in 3 months of it being launched.
Yeah, which is not ideal because they will see.
Because the price point, the way that Amazon works is it jacks up the price point, so you can only override so much. So because it's distributed through Amazon, it's a little bit trickier. In hindsight, I wouldn't have done Amazon. I would have gone self-independent publishing if I really want to do it. And that's what I think that next book will be independently published.
Right. So can you give us some examples of how small business owners out there can actually utilize AI, more specifically ChatGPT? Should they be looking at 3.5 or 4.5, the plus version?
3.5 or the free version is a good primer if you're just trying to dip your toes, right? Like you can do social media posts, you can do lists, you can get it to summarize, spell check, but you're still heading into a separate application.
Emails were letters.
What is that is, right? The meaty stuff is all there. Plugins, bots, you can build your own bots, data analysis, refinement of images, sourcing and creating images. That's all sitting in 4.5 or 4. It's 4 and 4.5 are much the same. The only massive difference between version 4 and 4.5 is that 4.5 has more tokens. Means the dangerous piece now, and this is straight to camera, is it can do long form articles. So before it used to be able to do up to like 200 words, and then you'd have to construct stuff. Now they've doubled the token length. So it can do up to 500 words, 600 words.
Right.
Which is dangerous, right? Because what you can do is write entire website pages, entire long-form articles off the back of a little bit of joining, rather than having to spend so much time prompt engineering, fixing, writing, editing, proofreading. It's crazy. The other part about 4.5 is the plugin. So one of the plugins that comes natively, and by native I mean as a part of the product, ChatGPT, is called Code Interpreter. Now, Code Interpreter allows me to upload any Excel file, let's call it raw financial sales data for the last 12 months, right? And then analyzes all that data, and then you ask questions of that data to ChatGPT, and it'll give you the answers. So it can either give them, to you in words, or then you can say, hey, create a pie chart for me. And it uses code, specifically Python, to then create a graph for you. And then you can say, export that into a annual sales report.
No, that's crazy.
Wow.
It's insane.
Don't need accountants anymore.
You will, right? Like, let's use a real-time example. I got a bunch of numbers sent from you. I looked at those numbers. I said, cool, I could spend time understanding this. But I said to ChatGPT, analyze these figures and tell me if this is a good deal. And it said, well, the good deal is a very subjective term. You need to speak to financial people to be able to understand if this is a good deal. But there was core information about queries of that data. Now, that data that we're speaking about specifically for you listeners and viewers is very short form. There's about only 22 records. The more data you give it, the more it can crunch, the more output you can give it. For example, last 5 years sales, find the outlier months. What was the product that was correlated to the spike in sales? Bang.
Yeah, well.
Minutes, not minutes, seconds. So data scientists, sorry, your jobs are a little bit on the line, on the nose there. But at the same time, now let's look at a bit broader. Let's say, hey, research the internet for the mining industry in the last 5 years and its sales movement. And it does that today. It never did that in 3.5. Never did that in 3. It goes out of the chat instance and it learns from what's active live on the internet. Right. So the stuff is so powerful that if you use it well, it reduces your time by hours and hours.
Essentially, it's no longer learning on the data that had been put into it.
Yes.
up to a certain point, it's now learning from real-time data. And you can visualize that in other applications.
Correct.
You're not just stuck in that chat.
And then if you still use things like Zapier or Make or Integromat or whatever those plugging tools, you can then send that information to CRM. You can then send that information to email. So let's say, hey, cold contact 50 of my prospects, and you build that script in ChatGPT and then connects to your email, sends it to them on autopilot.
If there's a business owner really looking to, I guess, invest in AI and ChatGPT 4.5 specifically, really could change the whole business from sales, marketing, administrative, financial side of things. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly what I'm saying. But what my warning to business owners, don't try to tackle the elephant all in one go. Always have one use case where you're trying to solve a problem first. Bite the elephant down in small chunks. Figure out where you want to save the most amount of time. Is it marketing? Is it sales analysis? Is it whatever that case is? And what is that metric that you're trying to actually make the time more efficient? I'm looking at 70,000 different emails a day. Can this thing help me summarize everything so I can read it in 5 minutes? Yes, it can. That can be a pain point, right? It's not as deep as like analyze the financial data, but understand your core pain point and the metric you want to solve. Put some parameters around it, then comes the tool.
Yep. And so for the viewers out there, if you haven't got into or dipped your toes into AI, ChatGPT specifically, you could probably start off with administrative tasks first.
Correct.
See how you go with that. And as you learn more, get more experience of it, start to dive into different parts of your business and try and leverage that technology.
And use data responsibly. Don't feed it like photos of your kids or addresses of your homes. Like seriously, like be responsible about what you put in, because what you put in can and will be used if you're not careful.
Question to you, Rax, and more specifically to marketing, because we know ChatGPT 4.5 can potentially take over everyone's job, but with marketing specifically, when would a business owner look to use a marketing agency like yourself versus continue with ChatGPT or AI?
That's a question I get asked a lot, right? So the real straightforward answer is when they want unique brand creativity, which is handcrafted, right? So for example, vector graphics, which is hand-drawn illustrations and things that make logos and stuff, you can use AI for it, but it is the wash. It is like everything else. At some point, you need to take it from AI and then you need to massage it into your brand. Either the business owner will do that, which they never have time to, and it looks like a piece of garbage, right? They'll tell, move the kerning from the eye to this, and it looks like garbage, bro. We know you've done it. So it's the point of when, they've seen some of the results that the automation of marketing can help with. Now they want strategy. They want us to do craft, which is make sure everything's custom and everything's able to be scaled at a level, and also giving a complete hands-off approach. So as a marketing agency, one of the things we do is done for you. You don't have to worry about it. We're your marketing team. Yes, we may lever on some tools like AI, automation, this, that, the other. But our job as a marketing team is to deliver the outcomes for the customer. And so once the customer wants to let go of it and actually scale, that's when they come to us for an agency. Now, whether that's in paid or whether that's in dev or whether that's in creative, that's up to them.
Yeah. No, good point. I mean, for now, we are differentiated when it comes to providing that unique selling point to that customer.
I think the key part about that is to look at it from where our value lies as human beings is in strategy. And tools can only do mechanical components of work, even though we might think that it's strategic, it's actually tactical. We are the commanders of where that strategy needs to be executed, and we leverage the tools and the processes to make these outcomes happen for our customers. Our customers who may not know about ChatGPT, who may not know about Make, or who may not know about, Google Colab, they don't know what they don't know. It's our job to give them tools, processes, systems to drive the outcome.
Or just get it done.
That's exactly or get it done for you. Yeah.
No, good point.
No, I think that's great. You mentioned that in the book as well. It's humans plus AI.
Yes.
Using that technology.
That's right.
For better outcomes. But Rax, I wanted to ask about, obviously AI changes really fast. What do you think we're going to see over the next 6 to 12 months in the future?
That's so far ahead. Too far. It's way too far. The changes are going to be so much more rapid than 6 to 12 months. 6 to 12 months is like an eternity in AI language. Literally in 12 months, I would see the zero code, like the no code, low code thing environment is transformed. I think business agents is going to be huge. I think that businesses are going to have their sub-learning models, which means that they're going to build their own GPTs around their businesses, and they're going to have their own on-prem instances of some form of artificial intelligence servers on theirs, because what I feel like is the server costs and the commoditization of the technology is going to come down as brands expand. And what I feel like is going to happen is with this whole rush of what was called cloud compute, it's going to be the same thing for businesses. Businesses are going to find ways to orchestrate a lot of their different applications and solutions leveraging AI from cybersecurity, IT, marketing, and they're going to start building their own tenancies, which means little software, little applications. Things like having an app will replace customer service agents. You know what I mean? And an app will not just mean this $100,000 investment. It could mean quickly standing up an app by saying, hey, I want to stand up an app, and it creates the app.
Yeah, because it's pretty expensive right now.
Yeah.
But you're saying maybe in a few months we can...
Well, it's there today. You can actually create apps from wireframes now using AI. So it creates the functional code of it. So there's a lot of like advances that are going to happen in like back-end technologies and front-end technologies. And by that, I mean, not design, I mean logically for business applications. And then I suppose the biggest one for small to medium business is access. I feel like there's going to be so many tools that there's going to be overwhelm in the small to medium community. And I feel like what's going to happen is more consultants, and the C words, are going to pop up, right? And more gurus and coaches are going to pop up. But the true nature of an AI consultant or someone that understands automation is the understanding of the technology behind it. And then I feel like there's going to be sub changes to the law around how legislation, how data and sovereignty is going to be used within AI. So I feel like that's going to be happening in the next 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Right? So the outlook for it is super optimistic. But as we're a backwards country, technologically speaking, this is going to happen in the US, UK first, and then it's going to trickle down.
Yeah, we'll see it in the news first before it comes to us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all we have time for today. Rax, if any of our viewers wanted to get in contact with you about anything AI related or marketing related, how can they contact you?
You can find me on my email address, rax@pounceagency.com.au, or you can find me on LinkedIn under Rax, or on Facebook.
RAKZ.
RAKZ, yeah, specifically. Yep. Roof Rax, but without the X.
Yes, excellent.
Yes, excellent.
And you can go onto Amazon.com.au and search Make AI Happen.
AI Happen.
And buy a copy of the book.
Buy a copy of the book in the next couple of weeks. So at least you can have the primer. So you can have the primer. The book is still valid. Like, the book is still great. Like, if you're still learning, this is a good springboard to get an understanding of where you can go.
It's a starting point.
It's a good starting.
Excellent. Viewers, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your network. Otherwise, if you had any questions, please email us at podcast@solveaccounting.com.au. Until next time.